Hi, I'm Donna Dewberry, the original creator of the one-stroke painting technique, and I'm here in Plaid Studio getting ready to share October's flower of the month, the marigold. I'm really thrilled to be in this season where there's bright, vivid colors. We've got oranges and reds and yellows, and look how fun that painting turned out with those colors. Now, what I want to teach you with our beautiful multi-surface paint, FolkArt has wonderful paint that's luscious and creamy, and if you've been painting with me all year, you know that. So let me tell you that when we're painting these leaves and these petals, they're all new. And I loved how they pop with the bright colors, even though we have dark, rich colors behind it. And I also painted some chalkboard paint and painted these marigolds right on there. Look how vivid that stands up on black. All right, so I have metal, galvanized, and glass, and look how rich those deep colors show up. It's time for our marigolds, so let's paint. Okay, so let's look how bright and vivid this painting is. I'm excited about sharing with you the depth that we have in this picture, and we also have light coming from this side, dark coming across behind it, and the bright vivid table which I made to match the flowers. So I think you'll like this combination as much as I did, and let me show you how we're going to make this happen. The first thing we're going to look at is, remember, I like to divide it into quarters. So if I come across this way, I have this as halfway. I'm going to make my halfway is where I did the pot. So I had actually the pot all the way to there, and then I decided to put a green stripe. So I know it looks like the pot starts here, but it actually starts up there. And then I want the table, I want it sitting on the table. So to make that easier, we're going to draw the table. So halfway between here and here is about right there. So you see we're a little bit lower than halfway. So that's how I want you to start looking at things. And then when we come this way halfway, I centered this pot. Now I don't always like to center. I sometimes, most of the time, like to go to the sides or whatever. But this is one that I thought was perfect because of how many flowers I was putting in it to center it. I also want you to see as we develop this that we have triangles of flower designs. See this? So I have a triangle here, I have a triangle here, I also have a triangle here. You can find many triangles there that will help you to lay out this design. All right, and then we're gonna also see that lots of times I put the flowers first, but on this one I did a lot of greenery first, and then I came and put the flowers, all right? So let's come over here and start drawing this right here. So if we look at this, I'm going to hold it up and I'm going to sketch. This is half, and here's about half, okay? Now remember, half here was too high for the table. I came down a little bit. So one little trick that I have, and I think I've shown you all this before, is I'm going to come right here with my little finger, and I'm going to hold my pencil steady, and I'm going to pull my little finger down. And a lot of strokes and all I tell you to do, I tell you to pull your little finger. Now, look at this. I felt like I moved a little bit, and I did. Look what happens. All right? So it's better to lay it flat. All right? So now what we want to do is I want to draw in my pot. Now what helps you, see my pot's going to be centered here, and I want it sitting on the table, not at the top up here. And that's where a lot of people make a mistake, is that you want to come down lower so it looks like it's sitting on the table. So let's come here and let's do a rounded bottom. Now if you do it flat, straight, it's going to be a square container. I want it rounded so it's a round. I'm going to have a little bit of a shape here. And then I'm going to decide, I want this 4-finger spread. Now you can do that if you have a blown up picture here to look at, but sometimes you have to just eye it and decide again by dividing from center to here how much you imagine that I went from there to there, okay? So that makes it easier for you, and just sketch down. And you know what? Your container can be any way you want your container. You might decide to have a little bit more curve in yours than I did, and that's what I want you to think about. So I came about right here, okay, and then we're gonna erase, and we are ready to get started with backgrounds, all right? So pencil goes away lots of times with paint, so that's fine. And what I want to share with you first is I'm going to start with our colors. Now we have citrus green, sap green, I put moon yellow, and apple red. Now, it's kind of depending on how clean you can keep your line here. So sometimes people like to put tape here, all right? So one thing that I do is I will take and wet my brush and just get a little bit of the color that's going to be most of the background, all right? And I can come right along here. I'm not worrying about my pot because my pot's going to be darker than my background. Are you with me? All right, so even water, you see my finger with water, it kind of took it away. All right, so this is your 3/4 inch flat one stroke brush. And what you want to do is wet this brush first, put it on a paper towel to get the excess water, and then pick up your paint, all right? So that's going to help me keep it off of the orange. Then, and by the way, you see that we don't have orange here, but I created orange. So let me go ahead and do that because that's going to help you see that if I pick up the yellow and I work in some red, if I pick up the moon yellow and work in some apple red, we're going to mix this in and get an orange color. So you know what? Your table can be any orange color you want, any value of that color. But what I'm seeing is that my flower had a lot of red and I side-load yellow. So that's why I thought this would be a great color. All right, so I just want a puddle that's enough to do the bottom, but at the table. But as you look at this, I do come in with shading. Now all of this is, the red is floated on later in the project, all right? So I'm gonna turn this sideways again so I can get a nice line. Look how pretty that color turned out. You like that? I think that's nice. So look, my little finger, see my little finger over here? Until I showed you my little finger. All right, watch this over here. My little finger's on the side, and there again, that helps me get this straight line, and I'm pulling my little finger. All right, so back to here. Steady your brush in your finger and pull it with your little finger across there. See, you have to think about that. I tell people, sit there, close your eyes, and pull with your little finger. And I know that's an exercise you have to practice because we use it with leaves and all kinds of things that we paint. All right, so now we're going to go back and forth. And you have another opportunity if this is not quite square, we can, or straight as we want it to be, we can come up, and when we float, we can add to that too. Okay, also don't worry about it touching into this pot. Because why? Because the pot is going to be a darker value, darker green. It's going to cover up any of the orange color. Now see, smooth. I hate it when people, I shouldn't use hate. I don't like it when people do these sputtering little stop motions. I'm going to do all my edges. I think the long, smooth look is going to help you right here. So long and smooth, and it's okay if you have some lighter spots and darker spots. See, I even like that, so I'm going to leave that. Okay, so let's take our faux sea sponge. It's man-made, that's what it is, and I love this sponge. And it's durable, you can scrub with it even, it's really wonderful. So I'm going to go, see, I dampened it slightly with my finger, and then I picked up my citrus green, and since we're working on the canvas, which has got texture because it's fiber, all right, we're going to make circles because it's going to, see, I can still see my pot, so don't worry about that. And see how that green down there, the citrus green I put down there, keeps me from messing up my table. All right, I like to show you little tricks. I hope you guys catch those and realize they really help you All right, so see, then I can pounce some in here, and we're gonna add some sap green in here, but first thing, I covered the whole thing with the colors. So circles make it get into the groove of the fabric, and then I can pounce and get this cool finish on here. Now I want to do the edges too, which I like to put this up on a, see, I go this way first and then I can touch it. Smooth. I like wrap canvases. I think I've told y'all this before, because I can go and literally put a push pin in the wall and hang it. If you've ever seen pictures of my studio, I have many of those because I had to keep putting nails in the wall and having problems with moving pictures of different sizes. All right, let's take this. Now remember, we don't want to just put that green and the citrus green, let it dry, then come get the sap green and let it dry. We want to blend this color and the citrus green with the sap green. But what happens, I've told you that if you've been painting with me, that this will start drying really quick. So as I'm pouncing, it'll pick up the top and mess up your painting. So you want to be sure that you pick up more citrus green and then the sap green. Okay, now remember the light's coming in, so I'm going to hold this steady and I'm going to start right in here, and I really want a lot. So let's go get more and more. Don't be afraid, because you can wipe off if you're not happy and start over. It's no biggie, okay? So I'm going to come down here and darken it a little bit right here. And then I faded it a little bit. I want to see what I'm doing here. There we go. And I can intensify it more as I do my painting if I want to on these edges where I'm going to come around behind the pot. But look, because the pot's going to go there, this is what I don't want to do. See that? So I'm going to wet my brush. This little trick I like with, oh, yeah, wet your brush and just wipe it off. It works better if the orange has already dried, okay? We can go back and fix that, no big deal. But I'm putting the dark to shadow from behind the pot. Now also, as I came across, I chose to put a lot of dark right here so my flowers would pop. And then I went from here to here. Okay, more green. Now this is a process that has to dry before you put your flowers. I always do wet on wet, but this, I really needed it to dry before I went to my next step. Okay, now I want to show you, I'm going to take this around the edges too. I don't have to worry about it a lot, but I have found out if you hang this and you have a balcony, you can see the top and it will look unfinished. I like to make sure that if you're coming down the hall or whatever, you see this, it looks good in all ways. All right, I'm gonna go and get my 3/4 brush, and I can take and blend in a little bit sometimes if I want, which what I told you is if I pick up some citrus green and work it in there. I kept blending it until it gave me that effect I wanted, okay? And if I wanted it darker and darker in here. So you might just totally like the color and the spongy effect, and sometimes I like to blend it out. So it's up to you, okay? You can leave it just like I had it, or you can come back and blend this in, all right? Also, that helps you along here to get some dark. Okay, now I know that in the beginning we just painted a lot on a white solid background or lots of solid backgrounds. But I feel like the more, the more we grow in our talents, the more we want to have this artistic background that really adds to your painting. So keep an eye on your pictures of how, and see yourself grow, which is really nice. Okay? All right. So I don't want any hard lines. So if I have a hard line, I go pick up the citrus green and the sap and work it in, but I could put darker in here still. I could pick up my sponge and do the same thing. But what I'm doing, don't know if you see this, but I have a light feathery, really light feather touch. If you push too hard, you're gonna dig into the paint that isn't dry. Does that make sense? And afterwards, I did come back and reinforce with totally dry. It's easy to go back in, add a little bit more citrus, a little bit more sap when it's all done, okay? So right now, we're gonna stop right here though. All right, so this needs to dry a little bit before we paint flowers, so we have time to go in here and do our pot. So what I did, and I can still see my lines. I don't know if you can see them, but I'm gonna come along here. Now this is one thing I like to show you, that if you stand this up, which I don't see my line too good there, and you stand this up this way on the chisel, it doesn't give you a big huge ridge of paint. Then you can take and lay your brush flat. Does that make sense? There we go. All right, across. And then down. So I'm doing this last so it covers everything. The edges that I originally left there. And what I want you to see is that as we put this background, there's like this FolkArt multi-surface paint has like a sealer in it. And what happens as we're painting and it dries, that if I'm unhappy with something, I can take a really wet towel or paper towel and take off what I put, which makes it really nice. All right, now I am going to let this dry before I put the stripe on here, guys. Alrighty, so this is not a hard background, but look at what it does to our painting. It makes a really nice effect. Okay, so now see, if I keep going over this, what's going to happen is it's going to keep taking it off. See, I like to show you that so that you can see that it happens to me also, so you don't want to keep going over it. You want to let it dry, and then what you can do is come back and add more color to it afterwards. All right, so I'm going to also not worry about that right now. Like I said, let it sit and dry a little bit, and then we can come and touch up. If you keep working on it, you're going to take it back down to the canvas again and have a problem with it. So let's let this dry a few minutes and start right into our the rest of our project. Okay, so now that my canvas is dry and hopefully you've caught up with me, we're going to start doing some of the strokes that we're going to put on the pot. And before in the pot, and I want to put the stripe across the pot really quick before we start putting greenery on there. So there's a couple of ways I can do that. I can come along here and put a chalk line just to help me keep it straight. And I used to just wing it and freehand it, but I've learned it does make a difference to use tape, painter's tape sometime, and come in there and chalk it, okay? So I'm gonna pick up a little bit of the citrus green and the sap green. See this? Double load it, double load it. All right, and so I also want it to come with me. So I'm going to put just a touch of floating medium, all right? That's the fluff that's inside paint with no pigment, okay, if you're new to working with us, all right? So now what I want to do is I want to have the lighter color coming down, and the darker is going to be where the dark is, okay, on the pot. I'm going to come slightly lower than that chalk line, and there we go. All right, so now when I put greenery and everything over that, we have this line there, and I'll get that effect I wanted. I also have a little spot here to touch that up. There we go. all right? I'm still not worrying about down here yet. We can do that later, all right? So let's look at our design. Now what we've done here, if you look at this, I told you about all the greenery. So I am going to bring green from here all the way up here and then down into here. I have a little short one kind of there. Now you could freehand this on your own and not even look at a picture. If you look out, I mean, it's nice like to put a flower arrangement in front of you that you want to copy. But sometimes I want marigold in this time of the year because they're bright and pretty, and maybe I don't have them in my yard. So if you can't find a picture, and there's a wealth of information online that you can get for different pictures of flowers, I just kind of look, I'm going to put them spilling out of the pot, and how would they lay and come out of here? So you take your fingers like this and spread it, and then you want some hanging too. So just think about how this would look if you were holding this bouquet and then having it spill out from there, because that's what's happening there. You've put them in here, whether they're fresh flowers or this looks more like a pot of marigolds. So now I want to practice on our worksheet. So I'm going to put the worksheet over here and put our picture up a little bit there so you can still see it. All right, and let's look at this, the green leaves. Look at the fun inspiration here. So I've got designs for you to see, and look at this. We're gonna paint those leaves. So let's look and see what it says for you. It's got your blending mark, and then it says take your 10 flat, all right? Now, I immediately thought grab the 12, but you know what? These are delicate little leaves, and so I'm gonna show you how fun it is to make these leaves. And I'm gonna use my double loader and show you how we're going to load this and practice our leaves right here on the sheet. So here again, I put my marigold colors here, but let's talk about the colors we're going to use first. We're going to use our wicker white, citrus green, and sap green as we paint and practice on here. So I want you to really look at the steps because it makes it easy for you to see if you follow our worksheet, all right? So let's come right in here and let's load the brush. Now this is a 10 flat, it's smaller. I have a smaller groove right down here. So I'm gonna come right here and pick up the two colors by splitting the brush. But now here, I'm going to not split the brush anymore, and I'm going hard and pushing hard down and going back and forth to work it into the brush. The reason I'm fast is not just because I want to be quick. I like being quick, but that's not why. It's because that will work it into the brush. All right, now with the smaller brushes, one of the things I do is do sometimes on a 12 and smaller. I'm gonna show you another way to load the brush. We can do the color that's the inside here, which is all citrus. So you can do this. Then you can dip into the sap green, and work it in. All right. So then right here in this loading spot, I've got too much. Can you see that? So this loading spot, I can pick up and side load the dark green. What I want you to see though, when I wiped it off, is the paint that's inside is still good. It's all loaded inside. I just wiped off the surface paint. But I see people squeeze this with a paper towel and wipe it off. They're pulling it from the inside. I just gently wiped it, and then I was able to keep going, all right? So I'm gonna show you this quite often as we're practicing here. Now, I want you to see if your load is good. So I want you to go just like that right on top of my guide and see if you've got a load that you like. Same thing happens up here. Look, I made the base of the flower, and then I pulled all these little strokes downward, just like the arrow shows, onto the flower. So I'm just showing you now because we will do that a little bit later, but see, I could pick up more of the citrus green and pull it. See, the more paint looks way better. And the good thing I just want you to know about these coated guides is that this is how it feels like to paint on glass or metal or a mirror. It's really slick, and that will help you see, is it going to show? All right. So now just remember, I keep dipping the dark green, the sap green, And then I'm going to come over here, and this is the leaf you're going to practice. Now, I always tell you to go slow on each little movement first. Turn it over and come the other way. It might be easier for you. Or you can take both. Let me show you. That's what I tell you to do if you're having a hard time making it feel comfortable for you. If not, this is how I do it. I wiggle up, reverse direction, lay it down to the side, and wiggle back. All right, so up and back. Now, I laid it to the side, so I made it muddy. So this is your folded in quarter eraser. Okay, so I erased this because this paint has a little bit of sealant in it, and it will stay, because we want it to stay on everything. It'll stay on this plastic even without scrubbing it. We don't want to scrub the coating. All right, so let's come back over here, and let's clean it up and do it again. So we wiggle out. Now, I don't have this at a good position for me. So that's the other thing. Turn your piece around, okay? So wiggle up, and see my bristles are going up. Reverse direction of the bristles coming down. And then keep that light in the middle. And you saw me when I came back before, I made it all muddy. So that's going to be your hardest thing to get down pat, is how to lay the brush, okay? So, which means I need a lot more citrus and little bit. It's not half and half. See that? I just want it on the edge. Now we're going to go up. Now I can now come back this way and keep the light on the inside, all right? Now, I'm going to show you that we take and put a stem first. We pull the stem for all of these little leaves. And then we're going to lay it on the side and come, after you always do the top one, then you're going to come here and practice these little ones all the way down the side, and the other side's exactly across from it. All right, so now I'm going to turn this all upside down on you and change the colors. I put it dark like this so you could see, but actually what's going to happen on here, you wouldn't see the white, but you're definitely going to see it on our project, because, y'all know why? Because the background is dark. So we don't want all the edges of the leaves to be dark. So look up here again. See, it's the wicker white. And a little bit of yellow sometime if I wanted to. It looks like I put a teeny bit of yellow or citrus green in there. That was probably citrus green. So let me show you how we're going to do. Now, it's good to keep this guide kind of like in front of you so you remind yourself what you did when you were practicing. All right, it's like the teachers at home with you, exact size that you want this leaf to be. All right, so I'm going to pick up the sap, and I can go right back in here. All right, so mostly sap. Now this is your little guide for these leaves. Then I'm going to dip some white, because I just want the edge to be white, wicker white. So now as we're doing this, I want you to think, you can practice it again to see if it's going to be what you really want. But I'm going to just keep putting little bits of white as I'm stroking. All right, so let's do this first one here. It's going to be really big, and I'm going to lead with the lighter color and come down. All right, there we go. Now, if it's more comfortable for you, turn it around, guys. And when I'm teaching my beginners, they really like being able to turn their canvas, all right? So I'm going to come back here again. I've got dark green and side load a little bit of, on your sap green, you want to do a little bit of wicker white. Okay, so now as I'm growing this greenery along the stem, all right, I'm slightly getting bigger each time, slightly. All right, so now I'm just stroking it. You saw I just picked up a little bit of white. All right. See how it comes back really easy if you get comfortable with how you lean your brush bristles, all right? Now, aren't those pretty? You're gonna love it because I can just come in and do more citrus green, look. Still have the light and that pretty. You can also restroke, there we go. Okay, now this makes it easy as you're looking at this because we're gonna just duplicate it on the other side. And I like putting that one in the background and have a few little ones hanging and then come on top of that with more. But dip the sap, dip the sap green, side stroked a little bit of white. Now remember, 12 and smaller, I mostly load like this, all right? So let's turn it this way so these are facing me. And see they're they're going down and slightly start turning the other way. Little tips like that is what makes these leaves and your flowers look good. So I like to get flowering, gardening books and see what greenery goes with each flower. I had someone tell me once, they wrote me a letter and said, those are not the right leaves for a dogwood. So I was like, I will go study this so I have a better idea instead of just putting leaves in. Okay, now I'm gonna mess up my stem as I'm doing this, but I'm not gonna worry about it because we're gonna come back and clean up the stem like the worksheet shows you afterwards, okay? So by the time you finish all these, you're gonna be able to do a leaf just like that really good because each one of those is a little leaf. Now look, I'm gonna turn the brush and lead with the dark this time and clean up all of those stems or the leaves that came into that. So see, that makes it look more natural when you do that on top, all right? So I'm gonna dip my sap and even touch a little bit of citrus and a little bit of white. Is your citrus green? I'm gonna put a few occasional leaves, okay, in different spots here and pull a stem into them that aren't they might be the ends or just little beginning. They kind of look like fern, little beginning strokes of leaves. Make sure you get a point. See, I restroked that a couple times because I don't think we had the point very good there. And I'm gonna just touch a little bit of my moon yellow because it looks like I did that, and I like that added a little bit. There we go. All right, so look, I wiggled up and then I need to wiggle back and one more. All right, so that's sloppy. The good thing about one stroke painting is that you can go right back over it. All right, so this is just a few pieces I did as filler in there, and I'm going to kind of fade it out over here. Look, just really faint, see that? I wanted not to have as much paint on here. Oops, I didn't do my stem. Let's put the stem first. Okay, so see, just really faded. If you make it just a little less paint on here than this one, it will give it the appearance of being in the background, okay? All right, so I like that. I did have a little bit, you have to address like it's all coming from underneath. So I have a little bit more coming here. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. All right. I'll get more sap green. All right, so I'm gonna come here with the tip. Remember, the tip's always smaller. And I need to put the stem there so that you know what you're doing, okay? I just love the way these leaves turned out. I was having so much fun with these. But this is what I'm gonna do. I am going to do one more, let me put this, one more long stem here so you remember what we're doing. Then I'm gonna stop and you stop yours and fill in some more greenery, and then we'll come back and we'll be ready to add some flowers. All right, so let's pick up again, and let's do this one more big one here, the large one right there. All right, and let's one more time. I'm going on this side and I can go on this side. Just like you're practicing on your worksheet, you can do this way also. So we slide up, reverse direction of the bristles on the chisel and slide back. Now, this is what you have to be cautious of. I did them almost both the same size. Now, you have to bring them out and then bring them back and try to get these little teeny ruffles, okay? And you have to be cautious that it gradually grows. See, I'm reversing that. And I want some space. See, I put that on top of that. Look how much better when there's space. And that's gonna make the whole difference on whether it looks like you wanted it to look or, or not. So I kind of go down one side. See, the space is better there. And then, I don't know if you noticed, but then I came down a little bit bigger. Lay it out. Then I turn it around and come the other side. All right. Because you know where they're going to meet now. And this is a lot like fern, but this is the leaf, actually. This is my version of what their leaves look like. And I think they're a little smaller detail, a little even smaller than I'm doing them, but this is my version. And there you go. Can you hear that I get into it? I get monotone there. There you go. All right, so let's turn off. I'm gonna finish mine, and then when you're ready and you've got yours in, come back and join me again, all right? Okay, so let's talk about the leaves that we just did. Now you can watch me lay this out in your mind and then stop again and catch up where I'm at. If you didn't quite do as many, that's fine too. But what I want you to see is that I had the little build slowly with good color, good blending, and not a muddy mess. Okay, so, and I even got some, so I had to restroke. So that's okay to restroke. And then I also had some faded ones that I wanted a little bit less, some brighter ones. And so I did citrus sometimes, alternated color with white citrus, added a teeny bit of yellow occasionally. But we did small, and we went up one side. See, gradually getting larger. This is a good version of that. Then I did the other side going up. All right, so I hung it over the pot. Now this is what's gonna happen as we paint. That's when I'll go in, and I probably added these extra ones to go, oh, I need something there and I need something there. But you don't know that. I'm gonna have a leaf here in between these maybe until you paint your flowers, all right? So let's talk about where those flowers are gonna go. We talked about the triangle of design, and the first one, and it's pretty dry, is that it is, I want to see, it's like 3 fingers wide, all right, and it's kind of like an oval. So I'm going to put it right in here, all right, with my chalk. And then I had, it's kind of oval in this one, but then some of these others might take more of a round shape if they're looking straight at you. So it depends on which position you want yours to be. Now over here, I'm going to come up, and I went up higher. See that? Now, they don't all of the triangle have to be the same size. You can have a bud, one on its side, and a full version of one. Or you can have 3 different kinds of flowers, but right now we've got 3 marigolds, and they're all pretty much open and blossom, but this one's tilted a little bit upward, all right? So here's this triangle, and everybody, the most asked question is, Donna, how do I know where to put a leaf, and how do I know where to put a flower? So I'm trying to share with you some of the techniques that I use that would help you. So right close to this, I did another one right here. And the beauty of using chalk is if you're like, oh, that's not good, I wish I didn't have that so close. By the time you get those in, you go, or even these two, and go to do, we're going to do this one first, it's under that. But we do these two and we went, this needs to be higher. Well, it's chalk, you can move it, it's easy. All right, so now here, I'm going to do a little bud, and I showed you a little bit underneath that we did to get the little cap that holds the bud. All right, so I need those out there. Now, you might say, I want a bud hanging here and one over here. You're welcome to do that. I'm just going to give you what I think we need. We need not an even number. We have 4 here that looks like an even number, but the 2 buds help you break that up. All right, so you don't want just 2 and over here 2. You see how we don't want it in a solid row. I even catch myself doing that sometime, not meaning to. So you just have to have some height on this one compared to these 2 so it doesn't end up in a row. All right, does that sound good? Now what we need to do is practice, excuse me, I'm just going to lay this here because everything's dry, and practice right on top of here. I made it very easy to share with you that we did 1, 2, 3 for the bud in the background. Can you see the background? And then we laid 2 of these on top. And then sometimes I chisel edge a little bit to the side if I want it fuller. See, this has a whole row behind and a whole row in front. Okay, now what we're going to do is get our blend, practice the type of stroke that we're doing, and I used a 12 to do this. Now you can go down to a 10 sometimes if you feel like it, but you don't want a drastic change because some people will do a 12 and then they go, oh, I want to pull out my 6, and I'm like, it doesn't look like it's part of the same flower. Does that make sense? All right, so let's start with our 12, and we're going to get the moon yellow and apple red. Now it's the same thing. 12 you can double load, or 12 you can get all red. This is apple red, and I can pick up or end up having a puddle here that I can side load from. You see that? All right, and just lay some more yellow here. So I pick up red each time and then side load a little bit of yellow. Now I want it to be strong on the outside edge. Now look at that. That's about 3/4 or more apple red. And then the moon yellow is just on the outside edge. All right. So let's see if we've got a nice blend here. So you can see as you do that, see what that's going to look like. All right, now I want you to see here as I do a little slight wave. Now I know some of you did the carnations with me and they were real jagged. This is a really nice slight wave. Okay. Now you're going to go around each one of these, and the outside row of petals is going to make the size of your flower. All right, so I do the center one on both sides just to get me going. And then whichever way's easier, just keep turning your piece, your project, as you're working it in all the way around. All right, now the key is to make, this is where people have a problem, to make that second row. This is wet paint. We're putting wet paint on top of wet paint. So I need fresh wet paint. All right, so I can go with that fresh paint and then go right on top. Again, you want that as vivid as you had the first moon yellow. So look, here's the first row. Now see, I want it strong enough that it shows on the second row. Now, the yellow in here, the moon yellow, is more transparent than the red. So it really helps that we do more red, apple red, and moon yellow right here. And look what happens. There we go. All right. So same thing over here. We just got smaller. These little ones, I have a place for you to practice the little ones. They're just a little bit. And we go around. And you might use the little ones in this flower too. So you're going to wipe this off with your little handy eraser, okay, and then we're ready to start painting our project. Okay, so I'm going to put this to the side now that we've practiced our flowers. And are you ready? This is going to be fun. You're gonna see all the bright colors, you're gonna like it. All right, so let's go back to our 12. And, all right, so remember, we're gonna pick up all apple red. Okay, and then we want to side load the yellow. So I'm gonna put more yellow right here and start side loading just like this. Okay, a little bit each time. All right, so to get us started, let's do a few little ones up here to see if you're happy with your stroke up there. And see if you feel comfortable. Until you feel comfortable sounds better. Okay, there we go. So now what you're gonna see each time that you do this, what you're gonna see is only the top row of yellow. You'll see some red, but the yellow right there that's gonna show is going to be predominant, okay? All right, so now let's put the second layer on. So we get more apple red, stroke it right with the moon yellow, and I want a nice blend on this. So I also want to come down. So I want you to look like you're seeing the outside of this flower bud right here. See that? You notice every stroke I pick up yellow and sometimes red, okay? So let's go back here, picking up your apple red and moon yellow again. All right. Now on this one, I did a few little choppy, the same stroke, but a little bit more choppy because it's fresh and really brand new. All right. And this is going to be tighter. Little teeny bit of just picking up yellow. Just a little bit, not like your carnations, if you painted the carnations with me. Of course you did, right? I love that we've had a whole year of flowers. Now look, I pull here and look, chisel, push, lift, all right? And so that made it a little bit more open. This is gonna be tighter. And that's what we wanted to achieve. So let's get some more apple red. I dipped that, grabbed a little bit of yellow and worked it right here. You can also come right in here and side load a little bit of yellow like we did with the white when we were doing the leaves, okay? All right, so what I'd really like to do is go ahead and put this big marigold right here. And look how nice that blend is. Look at that, okay? See how nice it shows? Now I was able to do 4 petals. Now I can come right here. You can't do that when you're putting wet on wet though. When I'm putting the second row. Don't think you can get away with it. All right, so I'm gonna come over here and get a little more yellow. Now I'm coming with a really nice laid out petal down at the bottom, coming towards you. All right, now take care that we are putting some of these petals over darker green and that we put a nice covering here, even if it means 2 strokes. And which will be good for you right here because that's gonna look like it's coming right towards you. And we're gonna finish up all around here, okay? Now all I want you to do as you're doing this is concentrate on the yellow edge up here. See how nice that turned out? Now let's put our second row in here because this is what we're gonna do with each one of these flowers. We're gonna come in here with fresh paint. You can't do 2 in a row without picking up more paint. So each stroke, I want you to concentrate. You see me coming back to the palette each stroke. Come around, we get our nice second row. Okay, so we want to take it nice into that first row. Now see, you can see I lost the yellow. Sometimes you just have to go pick up yellow. And every once in a while, make a little bit of a different little wiggle there, because then it gives it more character. All right, so there we go. Now, to finish this off, this is kind of tilted slightly. So as we pick up our colors, back here, I just put a little bit right here in the center. This gets a really more wiggled and tight. Can you see that? But then when we're coming out here in this area, we're kind of just making it short and small, but laid out towards us just a little bit. Look, a little bit. And I didn't even wiggle. Do you see that? All right, then we're going to put our center in there. Now I'm going to come way up here because it looks like, see those little bit? It looks like I have it lopsided a little bit here, but it's not. And it's all determined by what the center looks like. Now I show you in the guide that we're going to pick up a little bit of white. Put a little bit of white. This is with my 2 flat. All right, and pick up some moon yellow. So wicker white and moon yellow. See, I'm going to just dab a little bit in there. Sometimes I put the citrus green, but I think you'll see that that's going to look really good. All right, so now we're just going to repeat that for these other 2, and then the last one's going to be different. So let's do another one. Apple red, moon yellow, and now let's get this shape. So we're going to come around here. Let me get some of this paint off the brush. Got it all over me. Okay. So let's come around here. Okay, so let's come right in here. I'm going to restroke this and continue with the outside layer. I don't necessarily want a huge ridge there, but I want it to be bright yellow. And see, that's not bright yellow. So I can just come back. I like to show you how I address problems so that if you're having a difficulty getting that yellow, I want you to see that I can lay it there, all right? So you lay down the brush. I always tell you to bring the brush straight up, the handle straight up. All right, but we're on top of a smooth finish with our painting. All right. Now next we're going to add the second layer. So on each one of these, we pick up a second layer. I want to pick up paint often. And now you might notice that I am totally up on the chisel. This is when, if you feel more comfortable, you can go to a 10, but this would be in a 12. But I hesitate to tell you to do that because I want it to feel like it's the same petals coming from the same flower. Okay, so now right in here, what we're gonna do next is do little pieces of petals, because remember they're kind of ruffled because they're just growing from the center there, and then we'll put the center in that. And now this one's going to be under this one, so we're going to pick up yellow again, and I stroke the whole flower, even if it's going to be underneath. I don't have to make sure it's exactly perfect, but I want to stroke it so when you get through over here, it looks complete. What I don't like to see is when it looks like you snuck it up against the other flower and it really doesn't look natural, okay? See, after you get going, you can be a little bit faster. I just was trying to go slow enough that you can watch how this happens. And I want you to go paint a flower, a marigold, then come back and watch painting a marigold again. And that's when you're going to see, oh, I didn't see Donna do that. Oh, because when you go and try it, you're thinking, oh, I know how to do that. But then you go back and say, how come it doesn't look like yours, Donna? And I will restroke it, because I have to tell you, when I started teaching, they said, oh, you're doing something you're not showing us. And I went, I am? And they said, no, you do this little thing at the end where I slide down. And I'm like, I do? So I had to go stroke it again, and I still do that. Like, what am I doing that they're not seeing? And am I showing all that? Because sometimes there's just one little tip, right? Like these, I shove it out. I don't shove it out, but I push and I push and get a little bit of, see a little touch, and then our center goes in there. So I have both of these kind of looking at me. So this one up here is not going to look at me. It's going to be going straight, looking straight up, if I can get that position good enough. All right, so I'm going to pick up a little bit more yellow. So I'm not going to lean this one down as much. I'm going to overlap this flower. And see, I was concentrating on every single petal like you guys do, but this is what I want you to concentrate on, is the color, which is the loading. All right. Now let's come in here, second row. Don't want any of the petals to be exact. Some of the flowers, some dahlias and different flowers, the petals are kind of pretty much exact. Okay, now I'm going to come here and do a couple more strokes or petals that you might see from this edge. See that? But not complete, exact. And then now watch this. I'm going to chisel edge these little guys in the middle and bring some out this way, bring some out this way. And you're really not going to see the inside because it's up a little bit more. All right, so now to finish this off, we're going to put our centers here. So I'm going to get the moon yellow in my 2, and I'm going to just put some more little dots with this number 2 flat. All right, and then I'm going to come in here, and I told you could do citrus, but I pretty much did white. So if you notice, I want you to see where I put the wicker white. I put it on this corner so I could put it on this corner just to make this look balanced. And on this corner. Oops, not enough. Okay, if you get overzealous with the white, the wicker white, you could come back with the moon yellow and add a little bit more back in there. So there's always a way to fix it. Now, if you look at this painting now, we're missing, I'm gonna take out some of the, with my water, take out some of the chalk so I can see a little bit better where I need. All right, so I definitely need the base to the little buds there. Let's get my green again. So I'm using, I think I've got an 8 right here. Yes, I'm using an 8, my 1-stroke 8 brush, size 8 flat. All right, now what I did, just like our worksheet was here, I came down like that and made a U. Now if you look at this, I'll flatten this out. This is going to be more the citrus on because it's so dark. Same thing here. I'm going to make this come up like this. Okay. And it's like a cap. Kind of like we do trumpet flowers, is a cap that's going to come in here. Now, I am going to put that down and get my, not my 2, let's get my 6. So you could take your 6 flat, or you can work with your 8 still, whichever feels comfortable with you. And I'm going to do all sap green, and I'm going to side load the citrus green on the corners. Okay, can you see that? All right, now this is what's going to give it the exact look of this marigold bud, is that we're stroking up. Kind of reminds me of daffodils, not daffodils, thistles and pineapple, where they have this little look right here, and it's gonna go a little bit more, a few more. Can you see this? Push, lift, push, lift, push, lift. And you can go down a little bit more, and as I went down, I kind of went out to the sides. But see, each time I went back, I picked up the citrus green. And I need a little stem here because a little bit of this shows. It really didn't show on my original, but you never know if the flower is going to be out there enough. All right. Now over here, I did the same thing, but this one's tighter. Remember, because it's not really blooming out as much. So we're going to make it a little bit tighter. See how I'm pulling those strokes right off your guide. You can go practice them again if you want to on your worksheet until you feel comfortable. All right, so now I want to look and make sure everything's connected. I also came in here with another little leaf in here. I think I put one there and maybe a little one over here. So I, again, did all sap green. I worked it in and side load a little bit of white. I might need to put some fresh paint there, but there we go. Okay, now let's turn it so it's comfortable to get that stroke in there. So I'm going to come here and stroke back down and maybe even make it bigger, which means it covers that edge a little bit. And pull a stem. I'm not happy with that, which is easy to fix. I like it when I do something that's not like I want it, because then I show you how I fix it. Okay, so that's a prettier color. And we come up here, and then I get a little teeny stem in there. I want to just do a really quick one-stroke leaf, but you don't want to. All right. All right, so we have those 2 in there and maybe a little bit up here, and we will be finished with our fun project. So I'm excited to hear what you feel like you learned during this lesson. Hopefully everybody learned something they didn't know before. That's what taking classes and stroking projects, you might even learn that you just got better at your control or your pressure. When I thought I was really doing good is when somebody said, I love how much you've improved. Look at your colors and look at your shading. It's so much better. So that made me feel like what I now tell people is, as you practice, you will learn to have a lighter touch, because it looks like I'm pushing really hard, but watch this. I am barely touching the chisel, and as I'm coming back, I'm just barely, watch this, I'm barely taking the white on the edge, just ever so lightly, and I'm very lightly pulling that stem. I got a heavy stem because I didn't do it light there. So I did it light there for you. All right, so how fun is this? Last little thing we're gonna do is let's get our 3/4 flat brush. Here's one. I put them away. All right, and what I wanna do is, oh, I didn't put floating medium in there. Look, we did the whole project. Do you know why you didn't need floating medium? I like to share with you why you didn't need it. Because when you're using 12 and smaller, we're doing strokes. We're not painting, we're stroking. So as we're stroking, a smaller brush, you should have enough paint on there that you can do all of this. If we do a long, slender leaf, then you might need a little bit of medium. But usually, as you're stroking these petals and small leaves, it's stroke work where you should have enough paint on there, especially with our luscious, creamy FolkArt multi-surface paint. All right, so I'm going to load my brush with my medium. All right, now I can pick up a little bit of the red and float it on the edge of this brush. See, I keep pushing it till it shoves the color, it pushes the color over and over and over. All right, so then I decide how much I want here. And one of the things is that it depends on how orange I made it in the first place. So now this is where people, when painters are looking at me and saying, I'm like, no. That traditionally people will stand up, artists will stand up and do it this way. So it's always laying it flat, and the color you want to show against, usually against here, not the floating medium. Floating medium's blending it. The color's flat against where you're shading, all right? Now I can even come out here a little bit more than I did and let it be like a shadow, all right? And have it a little bit darker in there. See, you can see just how it graduates and it's a little bit darker there. All right, and you can also just remember, because I was tending to go in here and darken this, but the pot is the darker value here. Back here is not, but I want you to see, if I want to, let's get some more medium, clean this up, picked a little bit of sap green on one corner. I've got too much medium. So I'm going to go back here. Now, I can come under here. Now watch this. I can come under a leaf, around here. Now you can go around and do this a lot, because guess what? It is so simple. And if you don't like something you've done, take your little eraser, look, and it didn't hurt anything. Okay, so look, we can come under here and just kind of do it loosely. Don't get real intense on it. Do loose here. Now, see, I want this pot to really be darker than the background, but I want more background here. So see how you can just take that medium, and then you go, okay, maybe that was more than I want. The beauty of it is you can just wipe it off, right? Okay, so I added a little bit more over here, and we are done. So I have a little surprise coming up, because I want to share with you what's on next month. And we are taking you through the whole year, and I'm so excited that you're joining. And if you haven't got the first videos, the lessons, then go back and watch those now. You might have just wanted to do marigolds, but now I hope that you're inspired to go do more. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so I said in the beginning I wanted this a little bit darker and this more blended in. So I'm going to use my 3/4, pick up the sap green, and I just want it more intensified. Can you see this? Also take it onto your edges, all right, when you're doing that. Okay, so see how much darker? Now it's easy now to bring it in because everything's kind of dry. All right, I still don't want to touch my flowers right now. But you know what? You could come right over the flowers if they're dry and then wipe it right off if it touches the petals. And sometimes it looks good if it kind of mutes it out in the background. Okay, can you see that? I'm just slip-slapping that all around. All right, so I know you can see that looks richer. All right, I can even use a smaller brush in here if I want. So sometimes this I do not realize needs this richness until I'm finished with my whole project. And then I go, oh, I wish I would have done this. I knew because I already had painted one, but I hope that you will start getting to where you can say, attempt a picture that you never thought you would do without somebody telling you how to do it, all right? So then as I'm working it around here, I'm gonna stop about there. I'm going to wipe this and pick up some of the citrus green, but I still have a little bit of the green left. I wiped off too much. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Now let's get citrus green and a little bit more of the sap. So I definitely have a glow from the corner, but I don't want it so intense, because that's what I like about it. I liked it down here too. I'll come down there in a little bit and add a little bit more. See, slip, slap, slip, slap. And I just tell you, the time it saves you in this process by having the sponging done before is tremendous. It makes a big difference. All right, always take it to your sides, work it in. Let's see. Now, some people really like it spongy. I like it to kind of blend. And what I've always seen is fine oil paintings, and they have all this yummy backgrounds. And I've always tried to get that look with acrylics as I've see my strokes and all getting better and better. Okay, so there again, we're going to take the dark coming up a little bit more. Okay, up a little bit, up a little bit. And then right here, see how yummy all that looks? Right here looks like I just stopped, which I did. Okay, so right in here, let's get this in there. I'm having fun. I sure hope you had as much fun as I'm having. All right, so I go and touch up all my sides, and then I'm going to sign my piece. I want you guys to enjoy signing your piece and going, wow, I did that. And I have literally hung pictures and just kept looking at it over and over for days, and every time I'd look at it, I go, oh my gosh, I did that. So I'm excited to hear those comments from you, for you to feel that. So I'm making this inky. Inky means it's not pasty or watery. And you roll your brush and you're ready to sign. And I like this long brush because it holds enough paint that I can take and stroke my whole name in one load, because the liner holds enough paint to do that. All right, so we'll see you next time. So now, wasn't that fun? I had such a good time painting and teaching you this, and I'm sure that when you get through, you're going to be showing it to all your friends. And I hope that you go right on to our Let's Paint with Plaid on our Facebook site and say, this is what I did, and look at all the surfaces. Just think in your head the different surfaces that you can paint on, because many people are doing that and many people are sharing. So take your leaves and your flowers and get going, creating. And I want to do a little sneak peek for you, because guess what is November's flower of the month? I love November because it's my birthday month, all right? So November is chrysanthemums. So I am thrilled to be painting with you every month, so don't miss out, and be ready with your Let's Paint kit, and we're gonna have flowers of the month ready for you in November, so meet me there.